Hi, my name is Isaac.
My name is Caleb.
I'm Ryan, and we are the King's Advocate podcast. This week we have a bit of a special guest. His name is Brandon McCorkle. He's our friend. He's going to be leading the study for us, so we're excited to hear what he has to say. And then, of course, we want to have a quick disclaimer. You know, we're not experts by any means. We study the scriptures together. We're friends. We're open to learn. We want to learn. This is kind of why we put this thing together. So without further ado, Brandon, take it away.
Hi, my name is Brandon McCorkle, and we're going to be talking about today about friendships and the good and bad influences that we can have through our friendships, with friendships in the church and outside of the church, and some of the risks that take place, and some of the advantages that we can have in each of those. So I'd like to start off with talking about what a friend in Christ should be. So whenever I think of a friend that's in the church, that's a Christian, I think of people that are genuinely just good people. People that will be there for you. Pretty basic, good friendship stuff. People that will be there for you when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're having good times, when you're not having good times. But most importantly, I think of people that will help me and help each other grow farther and farther into a better place with God. And I'd like to start off by reading a passage in Proverbs. Proverbs 27:17 says, "Iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens the face of his neighbor." So here it talks about how iron sharpens iron, which is talking about we need to sharpen each other. We sharpen each other by the ways that we act. We sharpen each other by the things that we say, and the way that we act around each other. It's very important to know that we can also dull each other.
I think, have you ever used a whetstone to like sharpen a pocket knife or something? So there's a very specific way a whetstone has to be used in order to sharpen your knife, and if you're off by even the slightest degree, it'll completely ruin your blade or the whetstone itself. So it's very important to pick which friends you have, what kind of iron you're using, and make sure it's actually working, because in a lot of ways what you're thinking is working is actually doing a lot of harm.
Well, I kind of just think about in my own like high school days as compared to now. So when I was in high school, I had a lot of worldly friends. I didn't have a whole lot of friends in the church, and I would act a certain way. I would act far more worldly around my friends of my worldly friends, because they kind of made me feel comfortable to do that. They kind of goaded me to do that. Mm-hmm. And I, by no means am I shifting responsibility. I was the one who did it, but I felt more comfortable doing it and more confident doing it because of who I was around, as compared to today and to how I grew throughout my life. When I got out of high school of public school and got into homeschooling, I got around more godly people, and I felt more comfortable to be godly, and that made me feel stronger when I went back out into the world to not act like them, to keep that influence with me, because when I was around worldly people, I acted more worldly all the time. But when I started hanging out around more Christian people, I started acting more like Christ all the time.
I think it's important to know who you're around most often. If you're around people from school or work or anything like that more often than you're around people from church, a lot of times that can have a really negative effect on your life, which is why, at least for me, why it was really, really good for us to start coming together and studying together, because I wasn't just, well, not that we weren't doing anything at church anyway, but or with the church, but it gave me more reasons to be with church people more often, so I could get more influence from them and less influence from work and school and all those other places that I frequent. So I think who you have around you as often as you have them around you is really, really important.
Yeah, I mean, one of the deacons at the church that some of us go to, I thought it was really interesting. He was saying how that he went out of his way to take like his vacation time. He saves up his vacation time throughout the year, and he spends that vacation time on going to church meetings and on doing studies with people and things like that, so that for him personally, he needs that time with people in the church. He needs that fellowship time, and he goes out of his way to do that. You know, he makes sure that he has that time. Regardless, he spends a lot of the time in the world because of work and with worldly people, so he makes sure to balance that. You know, he takes that extra out of it and goes that extra mile to make sure he has that fellowship time to balance that out. And I think that's really important, to have enough time to balance it out. I think, Brandon, I heard you giving a really good example about that, about what your grandfather said to you.
Oh yeah. My grandparents would always tell me that I need to be around more Christians over worldly people as much as I can. They would say, for every friend that I have that's not in the church, that I should have 2 friends that are in the church. One to pretty much just cancel out the negative impact and the influence that would come with a worldly friend, and also another friend to take over that spot, to where I'm not having any bad influence going into my life. It's all good, while still having that contact with the people outside the church, because we have to have impact with, or we have to be in contact with people outside the church, or else nothing will be done. A verse that really comes to mind is Proverbs 13:20. Says, "He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed." The people that we are spending the most of our time with, those are the kind of people that we will be like. It says, "Wise men shall be wise." And I'm not saying by any means that I'm wise because I have a lot of friends in the church, because a lot of the things that I do aren't wise. But I am, the influences that I have in my life are much better than the influences that I would have if I didn't listen to that advice that was given to me. But I still have those influences outside the church that I can help, and I have my friends inside the church that I can lean on whenever I need it, whenever I'm struggling.
Galatians 6:1-2 says, "Brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such an one in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself lest thou also be tempted. Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ." I really like that verse, and it's one of those ones that is really easy to point out on this topic, that you have to be that support and that foundation for someone else, that when they're struggling, you go out of your way to bear that burden for them. You be that support, and when everyone in the church does that for each other, and you have that support to lean back on, everyone has someone's back. And anytime someone's struggling, you can help that person. And I think recently at the congregation that I go to, we had this thing called a SWOT analysis, and some different elders and some evangelists came together and helped us to make a plan for growth. One of the things that a couple of the different people, as we went throughout this SWOT analysis, talked about was how that something that we think we need to work on is when someone comes forward, or when someone says that they need help, making sure to follow up on that, and making sure to go out of your way to check up on that person, and make sure that they're doing okay, and make sure that they get the help that they need. And I think that's something we can all really focus on. So at least I would pose that challenge this week, that make sure you look to the people around you, and look to the people in your family and in your congregation, and if one of them is needing help or struggling with something, help them with that. Look for those people who need help, and they can return that favor to you when you need help. They can be there to support you, and I think that's the way God set it up like that, to be a unity and a family and a team to support each other.
And that takes vulnerability from everyone. It's not just like, you can't just come up to somebody in church and just pretend everything is fine and everything's okay, and expect them to carry your burdens like it says to in that verse.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be vulnerable with each other. You have to be able to tell each other, "Hey, I'm struggling," or "I'm weak in this area," because if you don't, you're just going to struggle with it alone. And even Genesis says it's not any good that a man should be alone.
Yeah.
So we have to lean on each other. In order to do that, we have to know each other and be vulnerable with each other and open with each other.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan and Isaac, we've had a brother come to us before and ask for help, and I remember talking to him a week or two later. We would keep checking up on him and talking to him and stuff, and he would tell me how much better he was doing with. He came to us with a problem, and he would tell us how much better he was doing with that problem, and how much it had helped him to just to be able to talk to someone about it and get some support and advice and prayers from people that cared about him. You know, just that little amount of support that you can give someone who is willing to be vulnerable to you is massive. You know, it can help you fight through something. And so yeah, just take that challenge to look for those people who are needing that, to be that support for someone, and also, you know, be vulnerable with other people. Be willing to admit your faults and ask for help. It's if you're not willing to do that, you're fighting that battle by yourself. And God gave us these friends in the church and this family and this unity for a reason. So we have to be willing to have that vulnerability and look to other people and confess to other people and ask for that help.
I'll give an example that I heard recently that I thought was really good. Even Jesus let someone else carry his cross.
Mm-hmm.
Even he had someone help him carry that burden. He was not alone in that. Now, he was forced to do that, but still, Jesus allowed him to do that. So allow someone else to carry a burden for you if you have one.
Yeah.
Don't be too prideful to let someone else help you.
Well, in the Garden of Gethsemane, he prayed, and an angel appeared to him, strengthening him. And if you think about it, Jesus, he created everything and everyone, and he created the angels as well. So, if anybody could look at an angel and say, I don't really need you here, to comfort me, to strengthen me, it was Jesus. But he allowed that angel to comfort him and to strengthen him. And a lot of the times, I think as Americans and as Christians, we look at ourselves and we say, well, I shouldn't need help.
I got this.
I can handle it on my own. And that's just not how God intended for the church to be. That doesn't help us. We're not only hurting ourselves, but we're also robbing our brothers and sisters of a chance to fulfill the scriptures,
Yeah.
It's important to allow yourself to
Be helped.
Yeah, be humble. Humble yourself in front of your brothers and sisters.
I think there's a couple of good examples that can go into this topic that, I don't know, at least that my mind goes to, and maybe it can help you think of it in a different way. When I was playing football, our coach would always tell us how that we had to do our jobs, and how that we had a role, and that if we would all work as a team, the play would work. But if one person didn't do their job that play, out of the 11 men lined up on the field, if one of them failed, it's, the whole play is going to fail because he was the weak link and the play fell apart. But if you've got every one of the people doing their job, it works efficiently, and that play is going to work. It's kind of the same way, I think, in the church, that we all have to fulfill our roles and be active and be there for each other. How he talks about not abandoning, what does he say in Hebrews?
Forsake not the assembling of yourselves together, as a manner of some is.
Right. So we need to fulfill our duty for each other, to be there for each other, and to be fulfilling that role by being willing to confess, and also to help those people who are confessing. We have those duties towards each other, and if we will all be willing to fulfill that duty, it'll work efficiently. And the way that God set up that team to work in that way will work the way he set it up if we're all willing to do our part.
I think a good verse to kind of talk about what you're talking about is in Ephesians 4 and verse 15. It says, speaking the truth in love may grow up in all things into him who is the head, Christ, from whom the whole body, joined and knit together by what every joint supplies, according to the effective working by which every part does its share, causes growth of the body for the edifying of itself in love.
Yeah.
Every single part of the church is needed. Every single part has a responsibility to be there for the entire rest of the entire body.
Yeah.
It's not just every man for himself. It's not just mine and my relationship with God, and that's good enough for me. It's my relationship with the church grows the church for the head, which is Christ.
Yeah, I've heard from people that whenever I've asked them what they think about going out and helping other Christians, they've said, well, that's for the elders. And I think it's very important for us to know that it's not just for the elders. We're called to help other people as well. They have the task of watching over the flock and helping us whenever we need it spiritually and things like that. But we also have that call to help one another, to bear one another's burdens, to be with each other in this fight, because no one can go at this fight on their own. It's not going to end well, and it's a very dangerous way to live, to try and go at the world and everything that the devil will throw our way on our own. Because if it's one-on-one with the devil, 10 times out of 10, I'm going to fail in that. But if I have the strength of an entire congregation behind me, if I have the strength of the entire brotherhood behind me, I like those odds a whole lot more than I like just 1v1.
Yeah.
Another good verse that you made me think of is 4:11 says, "He himself gave some to be apostles, some prophets, some evangelists, some pastors and teachers." Verse 12 says, "For the equipping of the saints for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Christ." So it's not just the elders' job or evangelists or teachers. It's their job to help us do the work. It's not their job to do all the work for us. We have to be able to do the work ourselves, and they're there to help us do that.
Yeah.
That's all of this goes to say that godly friends, Christian friends, are far superior to spend your time and your energy with your Christian friends. They're going to benefit you. They're going to benefit you so much more than a worldly friend can. A worldly friend, for the most part, is only going to, not all worldly friends, but for the most part, worldly friends are going to detract from your faith. They're going to make it harder on you. But Christian friends and godly friends should be the ones building you up and having your back and being able to help you whenever you fall, because that's what they were there for. So all that to say, is that Christian friends they're far superior to spend your time with.
And I would also want to point out that, in my opinion, it's not good enough to just be at church on Wednesday and Sunday and expect, everything to go according to plan and everything to be great. You have to take that time, like I was talking about earlier. You have to put in that effort to be a part of that body and be with those people and build up your relationship with those people and build up that strength with those people, Like, you can use a lot of examples, but like going back to football, because I don't know, that's an example that I'm familiar with. We all train separately. We train, at our houses, and we exercise by ourselves, but then we get together, we come together and we practice as a team, and we spend that time building as a team and working as a team, so that when it comes to it, we know how to work as a team, and we go out and we fight the same battle all together, and everyone has each other's back. I think it's the same way with the church, how that you need to go out of your way to spend extra time with those people and build up those relationships with those people. That was the whole point of starting the Bible study, so that we would build up relationships with people in the church, and then we'd have those strong bonds when we needed them. I would encourage everyone to look for every opportunity that you can to be with Christian people and to do different things with Christian people and have time to build up that relationship and practice those things for when you need it.
If you can't find opportunities, make one.
Yeah.
Do something. Call somebody, text somebody, get together, have a Bible study, have a singing, do something.
Yeah.
Even just hanging out, having fun, going bowling, and going to the movies is, you can have more fun. Well, you can have more fun, I think, because you're not going to have like uncomfortable, awkward moments. But also, you can still build that relationship with somebody else, even if you're just doing something that's not necessarily strictly spiritual. If you're going out and getting coffee with somebody and just talking to them, or whatever you may be doing, you're still spending time building a relationship with a brother or a sister, and you don't have to be doing a Bible study or singing or anything like that.
And that was advice that an evangelist gave us when we started the Bible study. After we'd been doing it for a couple months, we talked to him to see if he had some pointers and advice, and that was one of the main things that he pointed out to me, was that make sure you do things other than just doing Bible studies, because if you're just doing Bible studies, you're only building up your relationship in Bible study. Do everything that you do together. Go out and go eat together. Go out and do work for somebody together. Do community service together. Go to a game together. Do all these different kinds of things that you would do together. That way you're building up your relationship in every area of life instead of just one, so that you have that experience and you can work in all ways. So I think that's really good advice, that it doesn't have to just be one thing. Do everything that you do together and make your lives intertwined and have that life relationship with these people.
Yeah, and I think it's also very important to know that by us saying this, we're not meaning that we should only do this with friends in the church. We should have friends outside the church also, because, I don't know, if people come up to me and try and tell me to believe in things that I don't know, I don't usually pay it any mind at all. But if someone wants me to trust them and to believe what they're telling me, I usually need that trust in them, that I can trust that what they're saying is true and what they're saying is correct. And we need to build that relationship with not just people in the church, but outside the church. We have to go out and we have to spread the word. We have to go out and teach the gospel to every creature. Because if we don't, nothing's really getting done. Nobody is out sowing the seed. No one is out letting people know what Jesus came to earth and did for us. And it starts off with us getting to know them sometimes. It starts off with us just sitting down and asking them how they are and getting to know the person as a person and getting it to where they can trust you with what we're trying to tell them.
I think, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I was looking at a statistic not too long ago, and it said that a majority of people who go to church and stay in the church started going because a friend or a family member brought them there. It was a vast majority of them were there because of friend or family member. The impact we can have on our friends outside the church is far greater than the impact that we can have on some stranger on the side of the road.
A lot of the people that are in our church now came because their spouse brought them in, and then they stayed,
Yeah.
Or from a friend. There's a lot of examples of that. Just bring a friend. And, the worst that can happen is they choose not to stay, but maybe they heard something, Maybe they caught on to something, but bring a friend. Bring somebody in. And exactly like Brandon was saying, you can't just have friends in the church, but have a couple people in the world that you can influence and invite them to Bible studies and invite them to church and spend time with them and build that relationship, and then encourage them and slowly teach them and bring them in and take that opportunity,
A good verse to use for that would be Matthew 5 and verse 16. It says, "Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." How would they be able to see it if they don't know you're there? How would they be able to see your good works unless you're there to help them do the same good works, and they can glorify your Father in heaven? How would they know to do that unless they knew you were that kind of a person?
Yeah, I think it's in the New Testament days, Peter and Paul, they got up and they just preached before a bunch of people that they didn't know, and that wouldn't really work today. I mean, it might work, to a lesser degree, but a lot of people in America, if they see somebody preaching on a sidewalk or outside of a grocery store or something, they're probably gonna, try to get away from you as fast as possible. So, making friendships and making friends outside of the church is something that we can do to evangelize, but I'd also take a cautious approach to that in a certain manner, because like we said, friends do influence you, though. I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have friends. Like, I agree with Brandon and Isaac and Caleb. We need to make friends to show them what it is that's different about us, and be able to plant the seed for God and be able to evangelize the way He wants us to. But if we are, I think sometimes we tell ourselves, well, I'm their friend because I want to convert them. And sometimes that's just not true. We're just, we like the person and we want to be their friend. And that's fine, we want to be their friend, but it is important for us to it is important for us to keep our focus when we do make friends who are outside the church, and to remain, cognizant of the fact that this person may be a great person, they may be really cool, but they can also be a bit of a danger to my soul. So I need to make sure to stay on guard for that and remember what my purpose is. That's my opinion. That the other guys may feel a little bit differently, but
no, I totally agree.
But I think that's important as well, because I've had a lot of friends outside the church, and some of them I've gotten to come with me, and some of them I haven't, and some of them I didn't even try because I didn't really want to bring that topic up with them and mess up, in quotations there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to mess up the friendship, but we got to be careful of that.
Just be really careful the way that you act around them, and of peer pressure and stuff, because that's, I don't know, that's one of the easiest ways to slip up, is if you've got a worldly friend and they're like, well, we're gonna go do this, you should come with us, and you spend all these years with them, and they're really close to you and they want you to come do this, and you not wanting to do that, them taking it personally, and it adds a lot of pressure onto you to act differently. But you have to be strong, and you have to make sure that you're not changing the way you act around those people. So you have to be really careful.
Which is another reason why Christian friends are really, really important, because you have support from your friends saying, no, don't do that. You know that it's wrong. And you can go to them and hang out with them if you can't hang out with your worldly friends.
Or mix them together,
Yeah.
See if you can get some Christian friends to go with you and spend time with people in the world, It would be a million times harder for anything to happen if you had at least just one other Christian with you there to back you up.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have that support, and you'd be, you wouldn't slip up. You'd have each other's back like that, and you'd be a million times stronger.
Well, with all that being said, I think we should probably issue a challenge. My challenge to everybody would be call or text a friend in the church and get together with them, talk to them, do something to strengthen the bond that you have. Sharpen some iron.
My challenge is gather up all your Christian friends and all your worldly friends and make them fight.
May the strongest survive.
If your worldly friends win, you don't have enough Christian friends.
That's how you know. We're gonna have some guests on this show from time to time. Hopefully Brandon's going to be joining us more frequently, and I think he's probably going to be in our next episode as well, so look forward to that. I think...
Let us know what you think of him.
Yeah.
If you don't like him,
leave it in the comments.
We can always disinvite him.
Let me know. I'd love to know what you guys think.
No, we appreciate you bringing your study, though, Brandon. It was a good one.
Yeah. So without further ado, I'm Caleb.
I'm Brandon.
I'm Isaac.
And I'm Ryan. We are the King's Advocate Podcast, signing off.